So maybe the Holocaust revisionism at large, including the inaccurate claims about Churchill, is motivated by this need to maybe strip the world of Jewish sympathy. Because the Holocaust is obviously one of those black marks on, Western intellectualism and Western civilization. And potentially, in order to redeem themselves, they need to invalidate its severity or even its realness, right? We have Jake Shields and Dan Blazarian, most notably, have been doing this, including even saying that it's a total lie that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. But since its establishment, Yad Vashem has endeavored to gather the names of the 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust, one of its central and core missions. The Book of Names actualizes the inconceivable number of Holocaust victims and displays their names together with their dates of birth, hometown, and places of death, of course, where known. So it doesn't matter what is actually historically proven to be true. Bad faith actors will do whatever they can to spin the narrative towards them and their motivation and whatever their agenda might be. And I'm happy to discuss and talk about different perspectives from that time period, because there is the Holocaust, and then there's the story we tell ourselves about the Holocaust, and those are maybe two separate things. So I'm interested in people being like, the Holocaust was different than the way it was told by the Jewish community. And what I tend to find out, what most people tend to find out, is that it was actually way worse than what people talk about. It was way more brutal, way more disgusting, and way more evil. So claiming Churchill was the chief villain of World War II, or that you've been lied to about the number of Jews killed, removes the need to have any sympathy for the Jews and gives credence and credibility to any lies or libels told by people like Candace Owens or Dan Blazarian, right? Kanye West is really making the emotional pop culture case for the Nazis. Tucker Carlson is making the pseudo-intellectual historical case for the Nazis. And Candace Owens is really serving as an apologist for the Nazis. So with so many prominent figures spewing all of this nonsense that is dangerous, misleading, and wrong, what are the potential solutions that are in front of us? Well, I think a logical first step is to think about Holocaust education and really why it hasn't been as effective as we might have hoped. Much of the Western world was taught the what about the Holocaust, like what happened, but not the why as to why it actually happened. They were taught about Hitler's rise to power on anti-Semitism, but they weren't taught that Hitler didn't invent anti-Semitism and that this was lying dormant in Germany, as it always does, waiting to be excited and brought back to life again. Yes, of course, we were taught about Auschwitz, but what they and we weren't taught about the millennia-long anti-Semitism that needed only to shape-shift a little bit to give grievance to the time to make Auschwitz actually happen. They were taught about the numbers and the stats, who some people still don't believe, but they weren't taught about how blaming the Jews for every evil was the precursor to our persecution. From blaming the Jews for the crucifixion of Jesus during the first century, to poisoning the wells during the Black Death in the medieval times, to the blood libel of drinking children's blood in the 12th century, to economic manipulation during the Farhad. They were taught about concentration camps, but they weren't taught about what preceded the concentration camps, were accusations of secret Jewish councils controlling the world, Jewish supremacy plaguing society, Jews controlling banks and manipulating the economy, tracing all contemporary evils and social ills back to the Jews. It sounds very, very familiar to what some are saying all over their very, very large platforms. So people were taught about the genocide of Jews, but not the real history of scapegoating Jews as the catalyst to their own genocide. Had more been taught the why of the Holocaust, they may have been much savvier at identifying today's persecution of the Jews as the greatest evil of our time, as another iteration of identical pre-Holocaust anti-Semitism. Because people weren't, taught the why. these patterns have re-emerged. So Holocaust education should have taught the world about Nazi Germany as the horrifying end, not the covert beginning of Jewish persecution. Thank you for your time and attention.